Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnana Dimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tumeva Mada Chapida Tvameva Tumeva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tumeva Vidya Dravinam Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma. Om Amriteshwari Nama. We'll begin with a short meditation. Kindly sit straight and make sure your vertebral column, your spinal column is erect. Slowly close your eyes. Focus on your breath, breathing normally but fully aware of each and every inhalation and exhalation that occurs through your body. As you watch your breath, you will also start relaxing slowly and feel the relaxation and feel completely relaxed. Let's now chant Om 3 times. And as we chant Om, imagine the sound of Om to rise from your navel area and visualize the sound rising upwards, cleansing your body, your mind, and the atmosphere around you. Now kindly take a deep breath. Feel the reverberations of Om in each and every particle of your body. Once again, bring your awareness back to your breath. And now, as you breathe normally, when you breathe in, chant the mantra Ma silently along with your in-breath. And Om when you breathe out. Ma is a representation of divine love and Om, divine light. Just feel the vibrations of love and light when you breathe in and out, chanting Ma and Om. Now, after chanting Ma, hold your breath just for a few seconds and deepen the silence. See, and the pause. Feel the silence in that pause. Then, while breathing out, chant Om. So it goes like this. Ma. Om. Ma. Om. And continue like this. Slowly and slowly the reverberations of Ma and Om become more and more subtle. As you go into deeper and deeper silence, the physical sound of Ma and Om dissolves into the vibrations. And just feel the vibrations of Ma and Om, feeling the love and the light in your heart. As the light and love fills your heart, imagine your heart expanding and becoming like the universal heart which is filled with love and light. Feel your heart expanding like the blossoming of a bud into a beautiful flower. Now feeling the love and the light flowing from your heart to other beings. Imagine they also are being filled with the light that emanates from your heart, just like the rays of the sun. And visualize all the other people becoming more loving, more peaceful, and more compassionate. And while imagining so, we'll chant the Loka Samasta prayer 9 times. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryandam Vande Guru-parambaram Srude Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat-padam Shankaram Loka-shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Bhadarayanam Sutrabhashya-krutav Vande Bhagavantau Punah-punaha Ishwarau Gururagmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagini Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Om Dhyayamo Dhavalavagundanavatim Tejo Mayim Neshtikim Snigdha Pangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmida Shri Mukhim Valsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shamangim Madhusikta Suktim Amridanandatmikam Ishwarim Om Amriteshwariyai Namah Om Amriteshwariyai Namah Om Amriteshwariyai Namah. Om Amriteshwariyai Namah. In the last session, we had seen the story of the elephant Gajendra, and it was known as the Gajendra Moksham, where Gajendra was saved by the Lord. Now we are getting into a very interesting story about the churning of the milky ocean. So this is Skanda 8 or chapter 5. And so I'm just skipping a few chapters where they talk about the different Manus and Manvantaras, which are not relevant. Even if we discuss about it, we are not going to understand that much. So skipping over that, we're saying that now Sri Shuka, who is narrating this, said, O king, I have now finished narrating to you Sri Hari's bestowal of grace on the lordly elephant. An episode that is very holy and destructive of the sins of those listening to it. Now hear from me. So he's talking about the Manus again, and he's saying that he talks about the different Manus. But then Parikshit asks Sri Shuka, O learned one, how did the Lord churn the milk ocean and why? For what reason did he support the Mandara mountain as the divine tortoise? And how did the Devas, that is the divine beings, obtain the Amrita? What other things were got? And please narrate to me all the wonderful sports of the Lord relating to these questions. My mind that was being burned in the fire of samsara is never satiated by hearing about the excellences of the Lord that are being described by you. And the Sutta said, O sages, being thus questioned, the worshipful Shuka, the son of Dvaipayana, that is Vyasa, who is also known as Krishna Dvaipayana, greatly appreciated the king's questions and once more began to describe the Lord's glories. Sri Shuka said, once Indra was cursed by Rishi Durvasa, and as a consequence, he and all the three worlds lost their luck and luster. And none of the rituals like sacrifices were able to remedy their state. Besides, the Devas were attacked by the Asuras who killed them in large numbers with their sharp arrows. So, Indra, Varuna and the other Devas held council to decide what they should do in that situation, but were unable to decide on a plan of action. So now the demigods, we're talking about the demigods, like Indra, who's the king of the demigods. And he got cursed by Rishi Durvasa. Why? It is said that sage Durvasa, as you know, he's a very short-tempered person, and he was had very extreme reactions. And what happened was, once Lord Krishna's wife, Satyabhama, decided to have the Parijata flower, which is found only in Indra's garden in the heaven. And so Lord Krishna fulfilled her wish by going to Indra's garden, plucking the Parijata flower and taking it to Satyabhama. But Lord Indra, knowing that Lord Krishna had come and plucked the flowers without asking him, his ego got hurt. So what happened was, he wanted to teach Lord Krishna and Satyabhama a lesson. So he wanted he was waiting for an opportune moment to do this. So then this was when Durvasa came to the court of Indra. And he knew that what happened is, Durvasa will be so angry when this is said. So what happened was, when Durvasa came to Indra's court, he presented one of the Parijata flowers to Durvasa, thinking that, Durvasa will ask, what happened to this and where did you get this? And so he could narrate the whole story of how Lord Krishna insulted him. But instead, what happened was, Durvasa, Sage Durvasa, when he got it, he realized what the intention of Lord Indra was. Indra's intention was. So instead of cursing Krishna, he cursed Indra, saying that all the strengths of the gods, the devas, will be gone and the glory will be gone. So what happened? So as a result of which, the gods, that is including Indra, lost their power, and that is why the asuras, the demons, attacked them. That is, in fact, their brothers. They attacked them and conquered heaven, and they did not have even a place to stay. There's a similar story. Usually what happens is, when you have a late motive with such a action always, you think that you can get something out of such people, and in such a way that the power of their words or their curse will go to your enemy. But often what happens is, it comes back to you. So this is another story where, to illustrate this, once a farmer had a farm, but what happens, the weeds grew so much, and so his plants, his vegetable plants and his paddy fields were completely covered with the weeds. So there was a person in his village who was supposed to have what is known as a black tongue. So whatever he used to say, it would come into fruition, and it would happen. So he was very famous or notorious for that. So whatever he would utter would come true. So this man invited this person, and thinking that he would come to his garden and look at all the weeds and say, "Oh my God, look at all the weeds." And all the weeds would die, and he would his plans would come up. So when he invited him, he looked at the garden and he looked around and he said, "Oh, you have a lot of weeds, but in spite of these weeds, you still have a few vegetable plants and the paddy field is intact." So what happened? Just bounced upon him, and what happened was it just reversed whatever happened. So he lost even whatever he had. So this, that's why I say that if you have a motive, especially a negative motive behind your actions, that will rebound upon you, coming like a boomerang. So what happened was the same thing happened to Indra. So Indra, Varuna and the Devas held a council. And thereupon they all resorted to the assembly of Brahma the creator, at the top of Mount Meru, and after prostrating themselves before that divinity, represented the state of affairs to him. And seeing Indra, Vayu, that is the god of wind, and other celestials without any strength or freshness, and seeing also the world caught up in a spell of gloom while the power of the Asuras was, on the contrary, was waxing, Brahma began to meditate on the Supreme Being with a concentrated mind. Then with a face brightened, he said to the Devas, "We shall all take shelter in that Supreme Being who first manifested as the Purusha, the first avatara or the divine ascent. I, Brahma, and Bhava form fractions of that Purusha, the first incarnation of his. And as emanations of a fraction have come into being the Prajapatis like the Marichi and others who populated the worlds with various species of beings like the Devas and the Asuras and others that are born of the womb or egg or sweat or by germination by seeds." So he's saying that everything came from the Creator, who is the Supreme Consciousness itself. And he says, this is the time when he has assumed the guna of sattva for the protection and prosperity of beings. So let us seek shelter in that Father of the worlds. This being the time for exercising his function of protection, he will be favorable to us Devas, his own people, and do what is good for us. So he's saying, Brahma says, now let's go and meet the Supreme Lord himself and ask for a solution. So now there is a hymn of Brahma when he sees the Supreme Lord and in the form of, again, in the form of Mahavishnu. But I'm just skipping all those praises about the Supreme Lord, because again he talks about all the other aspects, and it's mostly Vedantic also, and so he talks about different aspects of the Supreme. And finally he says, O King, being thus extolled by the Devas, the worshipful Hari. Here, Hari or Vishnu, they're just giving a name for the Supreme, because without the name we will not be able to identify who it is. So Vishnu or Hari, Lord Hari, appeared before them, brilliant like the light of 1,000 suns. Dazzled by that brilliance, the Devas could not perceive the sky, the quarters, the ground, or themselves. How then could they see the Lord? Brahma and Shiva saw before them that divine form, deep blue in complexion like an emerald, eyes crimson tinged like the inside of a lotus, wearing a pure yellow silk brilliant and stainless like molten gold, having well-formed and attractive limbs, face and forehead, bedecked with a bright gem-studded crown and ornaments like bracelets, girdle, necklaces, anklets, and the neck jewel Kaustubha, with cheeks that reflected the glow of the earrings, adding to the loveliness of the lotus-like face, having Sri Devi on the chest, along with the floral wreaths, and they attended by his weapons like Sudarshana that had taken form. Seeing this form, all the celestials prostrated themselves on the floor, and Brahma and Shiva recited a hymn extolling the Lord. And he says, again, there is a sloka that he says about how the whole universe was created and existed because of the Lord, and he created this universe through his Maya and cosmic power. And he's saying that the lotus comes out of your navel, and so he is extolling the Lord Mahavishnu, and finally extolled in this way by Brahma, the Lord, who understood the hearts of his votaries, spoke in a voice as deep as the roll of thunder to those celestials who stood before him with palms joined in salutation and all their sense powers drawn inward. Though he, the Lord of all the divinities, was by himself capable of solving that problem of the Devas, he, being desirous of enacting the play of churning the ocean, said to them as follows. So, the Lord himself could have, he's saying that he was capable of solving the problem. But the drama of creation has to continue. So he said, what did he say? He said, O Brahma, O Shambhu, that is, or Shiva, that is, and O celestials, hear ye all what I say for your welfare. You now go and make peace with the Asuras, your enemies. For the present time is favorable to the Asuras. You have therefore got to wait until time turns in your favors. Even mutual enemies have to come to terms for the achievement of important objectives. After the objective is gained, they can again relapse into their mutual enmity like the snake and the mouse. So he's saying, now the time is favorable for the Asuras. So if you go and fight with them, what will happen? You will lose. So don't fight with them. It's a very sage advice. Whenever it also is applicable to us. Why? How? When your mind is in a negative frame, don't fight with it. What do? You should not succumb to it. But what you have to do is, you have to befriend it. How do you befriend it? By positive thoughts. Sending the devas. So the devas means the positive thoughts. When you send the positive thoughts, slowly and slowly the mind will start subsiding. And so he's saying, like the mouse and the snake. What does the mouse and the snake do? So what happens? The snake was captured by the snake charmer and put in a basket. And so what happens? The snake has to escape. And so the snake makes friends with a mouse who can cut open the basket with its teeth. Then after this is gained, the snake and the snake and the mouse become enemies once again as before. So that's the trick. So he says that just like the snake and the mouse, you have to befriend your enemies. And do not delay in arranging for the production of Amrita, the immortal drink. One who drinks it, even if he be in the jaws of death, will be turned immortal. So Amrita is nectar. As we know, the Amma's name, Amrita Anandamayi. So one who has the nectar of immortal bliss. So consigned to the milk ocean, various kinds of shrubs, grasses, creepers, and medicinal plants. And get Mandara mountain for the churning rod. So the mountain, the big mountain, Mandara, has to be the churning rod. And what is the churning string? He says the serpent, Vasuki, so should be the churning string. And O Devas, with my help, you will be able to churn the ocean without fatigue. The Asuras will have to stand the hard labor of churning while the fruits will go to you. So he's already predicting what will happen. So the Asuras will do all the job, but you will get all the fruits of the benefit of the churning. So you agree to whatever terms the Asuras propose. Conciliatory methods are far more successful than those of confrontation. So now don't confront. You say, and just try to reconcile with them. And when the ocean is churned, the poison called Kala Kuda will come out. Kala Kuda. And you should not be afraid of it. Many objects will come out of the ocean when churned. You should not have any attraction for or desire to possess them. Nor should you feel angry if you are prevented from possessing them. So, what happens? So, he's giving them a warning. So, this is what happens exactly when we start doing our practices, spiritual practices. So, what comes first? The Kala Kuda, poison. So, all the negativities will come out first. So, that is the poison that is going to come out. So, he's saying, don't be afraid of it. That's what Amma tells us, right? Amma keeps repeating and tells us that, when there are negativities that arise in our mind, don't succumb to it by becoming afraid of it. So what you have to do, you just have to let it come out. And what happens is, if you become afraid of it, then what happens is you are already weak. You cannot fight with it. So he's saying the first thing that will come out is poison. And so what the other thing, what happens, there are so many other things will also come out. So as a result of which, you will, when you do all these spiritual practices, you will get so many siddhis or powers. So he says, don't try to possess them, nor get angry if somebody prevents you from possessing them. Why? Because that's not the real fruit of all your meditation. So don't get stuck with all these things like the siddhis or whatever powers you get from doing your spiritual practices. You should just move on. And if you think that, I'm getting this blue light or red light and it's so nice, and you can get stuck there for years together. Or if you think that, you can fly, you're able to fly after meditating for some time. You will be in the sky. You'll never come down. And so what do you gain? So he's saying that don't try to possess these things. Let it come, let it go. So, O King, the worshipful Lord, that is Sri Shuka said this, O King, the worshipful Lord, whose will is free and who is endowed with the six majesties, disappeared from their vision and after giving the above instruction. So the Lord disappeared after giving them the instruction. And having made prostrations to the Lord, Brahma and Shiva departed to their abodes, while the Devas repaired to the region of the Asura leader, Bali. So I think this is Mahabali was the leader. And the leaders of the Asuras saw their enemies, the Devas, approaching them without any military equipment. So they saw from a distance itself that the Devas were coming to them, but one of the things was they did not have any weapons. So they got excited and made themselves ready for a battle. So as you know, all the Asuras, that's what happens. The moment they see their enemy, coming, they will get ready and they get excited. Oh, I have an opportunity to fight now with my enemy. Then they take the weapons out. But the noble Bali, a master of the arts of both conciliation and combat,
restrain them. So their leader, Bali, Mahabali, was such a nice person. So he told them, don't try to fight with them. They don't have weapons. So they are coming for reconciliation. So don't fight with them. So Devas now approached Bali, the son of Virochana and the conqueror of the three worlds. He was surrounded by his splendorous majesty and by his bodyguards consisting of the leaders of the Asura army. The highly intelligent Indra conciliated Bali by sweet words, and after that told him all that the Lord had instructed him to say. So Indra told Bali that, so look, we can go and churn the Milky Ocean. This was as the Lord had said, with the help of the Mandara mountain and the Vasuki, that's the rope, and we can get the nectar, Amrit, from churning the Milky Ocean. But he did not say? He did not say that you are not going to get it. So he said, we can share it. We'll share it between ourselves. So don't worry. So as we'll go and churn the Milky Ocean. And once we drink that, then what happens? We'll become immortal. So Indra's proposals were very welcome to the Daitya, that is the Asura king, as well as to Shambhara, Arishtanemi, and the other leaders residing in Tripura. So all the leaders agreed with that. And now the Devas and the Asuras now came to terms and became friends. So now what happens? Earlier you were fighting. So as again, there is so many of the allegories and the symbols behind this. So that's what we have to take. So if we try to fight with the negative quality, we are not going to get nectar. So what do we have to do? We have to befriend it and allow it to come along with it and join the good qualities, the good thoughts along with the negative thoughts, and befriend the negative thoughts, and then jointly fight. If you just fight with the good thoughts, with the negative thoughts, then what happens? You will lose. So what happens is they jointly put forth all the energies for obtaining Amrita, the immortal drink. With perverse confidence in their own strength and shouting aloud, they lifted the Mandara mountain from its base with their powerful club-like arms and started taking it to the sea. So what happened? The Asuras, they lifted the Mandara mountain, which was so heavy, and they thought they were so powerful, and so they could do it. So as they were lifting it, what happened? Tired by carrying its heavy weight for a long distance, Bali, Indra, and the others found themselves thoroughly helpless and dropped it on the way, unable to move it further. So it was not only the Asuras, but the Devas also thought that they could lift the mountain with the help of their own power, but they could not. And while falling down, the golden mountain pulverized many Devas and Asuras under its weight. In this situation, Sri Hari, who knew how the arms, thighs, and the necks of the Devas and Asuras were bruised and broken, made his appearance there riding his eagle vehicle. So again, they are being shown that they don't have the physical strength. So what happens? If you get tired fighting, what do? You call out for the Lord, and the Lord will appear. And by a look of his, he healed the wounds of the Devas and revived them from the effects of the fall of the mountain. So that's what happens. So when we call out to the name of Lord, we get the energy back. And with a single hand, he lifted the mountain as a mere play and put it on Garuda, and himself, mounting him, he carried it to the sea surrounded by the devas and the asuras. So what happens if you feel tired? Then call out to the Guru, call out to Amma, and say that you're tired. And so then Amma will give you renewed energy. She's not going to remove the negativity. All she would do is give you renewed energy to fight, and then she will give you more and more energy. And on arrival, Garuda, the king of the birds, unloaded the mountain from his shoulders on the seashore and flew away with the permission of Sri Hari. So that's what happened. Garuda put the mountain in the sea, that is the Milky Ocean. Then they requested Vasuki, the lord of the serpents, to act as the churning rope, on the understanding that he too would get a share of the Amrita, the fruit of the enterprise. So they negotiated with Vasuki. And Vasuki, as you know, is the serpent. So he also wanted to be immortal. Who doesn't want to be immortal? So he wanted to get a portion of the nectar, Amrita. So with great joy, they wound the serpent around the mountain and began churning. So again, understand, the churning rope is again very dangerous. It is a dangerous thing. And the moment you let it go, then what happens? It's a serpent. It can bite you back. So Sri Hari held the head of the serpent rope, and the devas lined after him. So, the Lord knew what was going to happen. So what he did, he held the head of the Vasuki, and the devas lined after him. And so what happened? The leaders of the asuras refused to approve this act of Hari. And he said, they went and told Sri Hari that we who are famous by the nobility of our birth and by our actions, and who are well instructed in the Vedas, shall not hold the tail, an inferior part of the serpent. So he said, we are not going to hold the tail. You guys go and hold the tail. You guys are much inferior to us. So the Lord saw that the Daityas stood still and silent after cogitating thus. Smiling at this, because he knew what was going to happen, Sri Hari, along with the Devas, left the head of the serpent. Their sides being thus determined by the Devas and the Asuras, the offspring of Kashyapa began to churn the ocean with all their might. So both the Devas and the Asuras are Kashyapa's children. So he said what happened. So they left the mouth part of the serpent and went and held the tail. And in the process, the Mandara mountain, the churning rod, began to sink in the water as it was not supported by anything. So as the churning happened, so the mountain started sinking. Why? Because there was no support for the mountain. O scion of Pandu's line, though those powerful beings held up the mountain with all their strength, it sank by its sheer weight. So both the Devas and the Asuras were trying to hold up the mountain and trying not to let it sink. But very much disappointed to see that their effort was of no avail against providence, their faces drooped in utter dejection. So again, what happens? These are all the setbacks that happen to us when we start doing our spiritual practices. So what do we have to do? That is, again, they are saying, the mind will go down. So this is the symbol that the Mandara mountain is like the mind, the human mind. And when you start churning, what happens? You are not going to get the nectar first. You're going to get all the negativities, and you get depressed. And some people say, I was much better person before I started my spiritual journey, before I started meditating. Now, what happens to me? I'm feeling so depressed. I'm, going down and down. and all the negativities are coming up. So this is all complaints of the people. They don't realize these are the first fruits that you get when you start doing your spiritual practices. So at that time, what do? You cannot fight. You cannot sustain your spiritual practices by yourself. So what you have to do is call upon the Guru, the Lord, to sustain, to help you, to uplift the Mandara mountain and help you to keep churning it. So when confronted by this providential obstacle, the Lord, whose power is limitless and who will always becomes true, assumed the form of a wonderful tortoise of huge proportions and entered into the water and jacked up the mountain. So that's what the Lord did. He took the form of a tortoise and then went under the water and held up the mountain. And the mountain being thus lifted, the Devas and the Asuras resumed the churning, while that divine tortoise of 1,000 yojanas expanse supported the mountain like another island in the sea. So the divine tortoise, it was so big, he was saying. And so what happened? It supported the mountain, and the mountain looked like another island in the middle of the sea. So the primeval tortoise of infinite strength bore the mountain on its back and felt its whirling movement as mere scratching, as the Devas and the Asuras churned with all the strength of their arms. So as far as the Lord was concerned, who assumed the form of the tortoise, what happened? He felt the churning of the mountain as the mountain moved, just like the scratching on the back. And it was just as simple as that. And in the ranks of the Devas and the Asuras, Mahavishnu appeared in the form of a Deva and Asura, respectively, in order to encourage and embolden them to continue the journey. So here, watch out. What happens? The Guru can appear as a Deva and as well as an Asura. So he said the Mahavishnu came in the form of Asura and also Deva. Why? To encourage them to keep on churning the Milky Ocean. So what, as Amma says, sometimes she comes to test you in the form of a demon as well as in the form of a god also. So watch out. So both the negative and the positive qualities, sometimes, when people come to you and tell you, you have to understand that it is the Guru himself or herself who is coming in that form and telling you. So, but if it is a negative response or a negative intention, don't fall for it. So he also entered into the serpent Vasuki as anesthesia in order to shield it from the torture of churning. So he was also compassionate to Vasuki. So he entered into Vasuki as an anesthesia so that Vasuki will not suffer the pains of the churning. And when the movement of churning seemed to upset the balance of the mountain, Mahavishnu stood on its top, assuming a form as huge as another mountain, with one of his 1,000 arms pressed down the mountain to its proper place. So whenever the Mount Meru was slowly turning to one side to upset the balance, so Mahavishnu with just one of his 1,000 arms pressed the mountain and just made it straight so that the churning could continue. The celestials headed by Brahma showered flowers on him as they stood above and viewed the scene. So now the Lord strengthened the resolve of all by this manifestation of his in many ways. Above the mountain, pressing it down, and underneath, supporting it as a tortoise, in the hearts of Asuras and Devas as strength, and in Vasuki as insensitiveness. So he manifested in different ways. So all the different manifestations are nothing but the forms of the Lord. So when one of the things that happens to us is when we fight against the negativities and finally we succeed, we think, oh, it was because of my strength and I could fight the negativity. So here we have to understand, where did the strength come from? It came from the Guru or from the Lord. So with the furious abandon of drunkards, they churned the ocean with the mountain with all their might and main, causing wild consternation among the aquatic creatures. So all the creatures in the ocean was getting so disturbed by this churning. And now the asuras who were holding the head of the Vasuki, the Paulomas, the Kalayas, the Mahabali, Ilwala and others in course of time became scorched and faded like the Sarala tree in a forest fire on being exposed to the unbearable heat and smoke issuing from the eyes, face and the breath of the serpent Vasuki. So now you know why the Lord devised it in the beginning. He went and stood there. He knew that the asuras will say, we want to hold the head, you go and hold the tail. And now what happened? While they were holding the head, they were scorched because the unbearable heat was coming from the eyes, the face and the breath of the serpent Vasuki. And the devas too had their luster effaced by the flaming breath of the serpent, and their faces, clothes, wreaths and coats all turned grey with smoke. Just then the clouds which were under the Lord's control rained a shower over them, while a breeze cooled the waves of the ocean fanned them. So what happens in such cases when we do intense tapas? That's what they are saying. No matter when we do the intense tapas, suddenly we get a cool breeze, or we get suddenly we get some energy in the form of cooling effect. So where does that come from? Again, it is saying that it's coming from the Lord or from the Guru. And when no Amrita appeared in spite of churning by the Devas and the Asuras, the Lord himself began to churn it very powerfully. And blue in color like a rain cloud, wearing garments that shone like gold and earrings that glowed like lightning, with locks of attractive hair all scattered, wearing the floral wreath on his chest and having eyes slightly reddish in tinge, the Lord shone like another mountain as he churned with the churning rod of Mount Mandara, holding the serpent cord of Vasuki with his 4 victorious arms. So now, again, what happens after churning for some time? They become tired, and now we know that we cannot churn anymore. And so what happens in that time? The Lord himself will come. The Guru himself or herself will come and help us to churn the mind. And from the sea full of aquatic creatures like Timi, sea elephants, alligators and whales, the violent churning threw up various kinds of fish and amphibians, until the virulent and notorious poison, hala, called the Kalakuda, emerged. So what happened? There was so many aquatic creatures also came, but finally the poison emerged, which is known as Kalakuda or hala. So it emerged. Its fiercely penetrating and fatal fume spread everywhere quickly, above, below, and all the sides. O King, terror-stricken and defenseless, the Prajapatis and all the celestials hurried to take shelter at the feet of Lord Sadashiva. So Lord Shiva is the one who, as you know, he's known as what? He's known as the one who drinks the poison, right? So when he drinks the poison, so they knew that only Lord Shiva could save them. So they went to the feet of the Lord. They found him established on the Kailasa along with the Devi for the good of the world. He was dear to the sages because of his practicing meditation conducive to bestowing the bliss of salvation on all contemplatives. They prostrated themselves before him and recited the following hymn. So they went to Lord Shiva, who was in Kailasa, was where his abode was, and started to praise the Lord. And so Neelakantha, that is what one of the names of Lord Shiva, because he drank the poison. So because his neck became blue. So when they all went to Lord Shiva, knowing that he will be the only person who will be able to protect them from the poison. And so they started singing the praises, saying that, O great divinity, save us from this poison that threatens the life of the three worlds. Thou art the master of the destinies of all beings, of their bondage and liberation. And then all-pervading being, when thou who art pure self-awareness dost will to create, preserve and dissolve this universe, thou dost then assume thy power of Maya with its threefold aspect of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, and in association with thou comest to be known as Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva. So again, Shiva is seen here as the combination. And so they sing his praises. And they say, O worshipful Lord, and he says, the embodiment of the Vedas, the oceans form thy abdomen, the mountains, thy bones, the plants and the creepers, thy hair, the Vedic meters, are thy sevenly bodily constituents, and all dharmas, thy heart. So, O Lord, so the 5 secret mantras, and from which the other 38 mantras arose, and thy 5 faces, the supreme truth called Shiva is verily the self-effulgent being consciousness. And so they sing his glories. And so they say, O for thee, who could view with indifference even the reduction to ashes of the whole universe of thy own creation by a spark of fire coming out of thy eyes at the time of dissolution, it is no matter of praise to be extolled by reference to acts of thine. And so he says the destruction of the poison of Kalakuda. So he's saying that he's the destroyer. So he's the only one who can drink the Kalakuda poison and help from not destroying the world. So that is, they extol Lord Shiva, they praise Lord Shiva with this. And then in the next session, we will see what happens as Lord Shiva comes into the scene. Om Amriteshwariye Namah. Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma. Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma. Amritamayi, Anandamayi, Amritanandamayi, Ma. Amritamayi, Anandamayi, Amritanandamayi, Ma. Shantimayi, Suhasamayi, Amritanandamayi. Shantimayi, Suhasamayi, Amritanandamayi. Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma. मैं हूँ अनाद, तू ही माता। माया दीदा सद्गुरु माता। वेद पुराण तू ही गीता। वेद पुराण तू ही गीता। अमृतमयी अम्बे मां, अम्बे मां, जगदम्बे अम्बे मां, जगदम्बे अम्बे मां, जगदम्बे अम्बे मां, जगदम्बे अमृतमयी आनंदमयी अमृतानंदमयी Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Vani Veena Vani Brahmani Lakshmi Narayani Kalyani Trishoolavani Amba Bhavani Trishoolavani Amba Bhavani Amritamayi Ambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Amritamayi Anandamayi Amritanandamayi Ma, Shantimayi Suhasamayi Amritanandamayi Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, जय 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 गणनायका, जय जय विघ्न विनाशका। जय गणनायका, जय जय विघ्न विनाशका। जय शुभमङ्गलदायका, विद्या बुद्धिप्रदायका। शुभमङ्गलदायका, विद्या बुद्धिप्रदायका। जय 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 गणनायका, जय जय विघ्न विनाशका। जय गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गंगाधर शिव शंभो नंदन, गंगाधर शिव शंभो नंदन। जय 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 गणनायका, जय जय विघ्न विनाशका। जय शुभमङ्गलदायका, विद्या बुद्धिप्रदायका। जय जय गणनायका, जय जय विघ्न विनाशका। जय गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गजवदना गौरी नंदन, गंगाधर शिव शंभो 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 नंदन। जय 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 गणनायका, जय जय विघ्न vinashaka. Gopala Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, Golokanandana Krishna, Govinda Krishna, Ghanashyama Krishna, Gopi Janeshwara Krishna. Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, Golokanandana Krishna, Govinda Krishna, Ghanashyama Krishna, Gopi Janeshwara Krishna. Sukumara Krishna, Suramujya Krishna, Sukhasara Vigraha Krishna, Kamaniya Krishna, Karunadra Krishna, Kalidosha Nashana Krishna. Gopala Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, Govinda Krishna, Ghanashyama Krishna, Navanida Krishna, Nadaraja Krishna, Nalinida Lekshana Krishna, Yadunada Krishna, Yadisevya Krishna, Yamuna Kadasrida Krishna. Gopala Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, Govinda Krishna, Ghanashyama Krishna, Brajavasi Krishna, Vanamali Krishna, Vasudeva Nandana Krishna, Jayadeva Krishna, Jagadisha Krishna, Yanamanaseshwara Krishna. Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, Bala Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, Golokanandana Krishna, Govinda Krishna, Ghanashyama Krishna, Gopi Janeshwara Krishna. Bala Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, Golokanandana Krishna, Govinda Krishna, Ghanashyama Krishna, Gopi Janeshwara Krishna. Janeshwara Krishna, Gopi Janeshwara Krishna. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Jai Ma. अमृतेश्वरी मङ्गलं प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मङ्गलं भुवनेश्वरी मङ्गलं सुकृतिना एकाश्रये मङ्गलम् अमृतेश्वरी मङ्गलं प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मङ्गलं भुवनेश्वरी मङ्गलं सुकृतिना एकाश्रये मङ्गलम् हृदयेश्वरी मङ्गलं हृदिलसत् तेजोर्मयी मङ्गलं मृदुभाषिणी मङ्गलं विजयदा प्रेमाग्रदे मङ्गलं विजयदा प्रेमाग्रदे मङ्गलं विजयदा प्रेमाग्रदे मङ्गलम् जग जननी वन्दे अमृतानन्दमयी मंगल आरती माधववाणी अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी जन मन निज सुखदायिनी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी मंगलकारिणी वन्दे जननी अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी सकलागम निगमादिषु चरिते अमृतानन्दमयी जननी वन्दे अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी प्रेमरसामृत वर्षिणी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी प्रेम भक्ति संदायिनी Madamritanandamayi, Madamritanandamayi, Samadamadaini, Manalakarini, Amritanandamayi, Sadadam Mamaridi Vasada Devi Amritanandamayi, Mata Amritanandamayi, Padidodhara Nirandar Hridaye Amritanandamayi, Paramahamsa Padanilaye Devi Amritanandamayi, Mada Amritanandamayi, He Janani Jani Marana Nivarini Amritanandamayi, He Srida Jana Paripalini Jayada Amritanandamayi, Mada Amritanandamayi, Surajana Pujita Jaya Jagadamba Amritanandamayi, Sahaja Samadhi Shudhanye Devi Amritanandamayi, Mada Amritanandamayi, Mada Amritanandamayi, Mada Amritanandamayi. Om Jaya Jaya Jagajanani Vandi Amritanandamayi, Mangala Arati Madhav Bhavani Amritanandamayi, Mada Amritanandamayi, Mada Amritanandamayi. Jai Bolo Sadguru Mata Amritanandamayi Devi ki. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.